Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, or whatever time zone it is, wherever you in the world, it is your Lore Saviour, and welcome to the second Chicago by Night recap home game thingy, what to call it. Last time we were introduced to our players, Lasombra, Brujah, Malkavian. There were boons tossed about all over the place. They managed to find a way to deal with Crook, and when we left off, they were going to find a way to deal with Noah, or at least they were talking about it. And without going into spoiler territory, I had some ideas of what was going to happen, and it turned out they didn't get as far as I planned, and they actually did manage to speak with Noah. But before we get into that, I'm going, as you might have seen from the thumbnail, this is actually 2 sessions, just like the previous one. Hopefully, this isn't going to be the case of every single recap that I do. It just so happens that sessions 2 and 3 were like the day apart from each other, so all of that is fairly fresh in my mind. But yeah, that's what that is, and technically speaking, not a lot happened, but at the same time, quite a lot happened. So, what happened? Well, the coterie decided that they realised that they really should talk to Noah, and they were going to use Felicity to get there. And that went very well. I'd actually argue that it went too well, because the Lasombra player managed to use their, shall we say, their female charm, as it were, to woo over the in-airport police to lead the coterie to Felicity. The Malkavian used Dominate to trick Felicity into taking the group straight to Noah, who's like right at the back, typing away on a laptop. For those of you who have run Chicago by Night will know why, but I will not say why, in case you are doing this and you don't want any spoilers. Or at least far more than what I'm giving already. Yeah, and to make a long encounter really short, between the Malkavian and the Lasombra, they managed to team up and intimidate Noah to prevent him from, intervening when Malenkoff and Sierra, the Lasombra, who are coming into Chicago. But how they did that is that the two of them, Lasombra and Malkavian, were talking at Noah, like threatening him with this, that, and the other. And the Lasombra player may have got their Oblivion out, and during the intimidation roll, Noah frenzied via a bestial failure. Now, Noah being a Finnblood, I don't actually remember Finnbloods do frenzy, but I thought that just made appropriate sense there, and it was very exciting to see the players react to this vampire throwing themselves against a glass wall that could break any second, and they were being casual about that, I have to say. If they took too long, I would have had Noah just fucking run out and just like Masquerade breach. But no, they managed to get him to calm down. The Lasombra player had the awareness to like pull back the Oblivion, which was enough for Noah to rein it in, as it were. Brujah player did put a table between them in case a frenzied Noah would bite back, as it were. But yeah, once they had done that, they then went their separate ways. The coaches went their separate ways, and we had a bit of role play. Lasombra player basically got a grilling from their sire. They should be more assertive and all this sort of stuff. Like the Lasombra player wanted, some positive praise from said sire, and the sire was just not having any of it, because why would they? They're an old Lasombra. They just want results. They don't want all this communication. And I think Lasombra player is doing this really well. They're in a very unfortunate position at the moment, which is something that they've wanted to do and explore, as I explained in the previous theme. But they're just getting a grilling from everyone, everywhere. And I'm, making sure that it's not too much. Yeah, the roleplay was just really cool and really fun, and I got lots of praise about portraying the sire, which did make me feel a little good, I have to say. I was consensually being a good arsehole. But joking aside, it's always a challenge taking somebody's ideas and concepts and interpreting them so you're getting them out correctly and also doing things that you didn't expect. And there are some times where that goes wrong, and I did do that actually. In the next session, which I'll just carry on talking about, just for anybody who thought I was a perfect storyteller, I'm not. And also, I think it's important to talk about these mistakes, just so people are aware that I'm just not, as perfect as it come. On the other side of things, before I carry on, the Lasombra was also trying to work out what to do with the different players and trying to work out, okay, so what does the sire know about Brujah player? And of course, Lasombra sire wasn't going to give anything away. You'll know the reasons for that if you watch the previous one and watch the spoilers. And then we move on to the Malkavian, who went to their haven, which is like the big old observatory that's there. I can't remember the name of it, and quite frankly, it really doesn't matter. So they went to their haven and they gave their sire a call, which you may remember is the complete flip side of the Lasombra sire. They're just as controlling, but a lot more affectionate, shall we say. And that Malkavian is very anxious and scared about the Lasombra presence and does not like Malkavian player interacting with the Lasombra. Furthermore, something I forgot to mention in the previous recap, or at least I think I forgot about it, is that said character, Malkavian player, is bloodbound to their sire. So when their sire attempted to use Dominate on them to hand over the letter to read it, Malkavian player just did that instantly. So now, Malkavian sire knows about what's going on. And I have plans for that, which I will talk about in the spoiler section of this recap. But she is not happy one bit. Basically told Malkavian player to stay away from the Lasombra, to keep contact as small as possible. Now, this was reflected later on when the coterie would take the Lasombra's Malinkoff and Sierra to the observatory, the safe haven, until the following night, where they have to go to the Succubus Club. But before they do that, they obviously went to the back to the airport, O'Hare Airport, with the timings and whatnot. Of course, one of the burner phones being used. I don't remember when this happened, but I did manage to employ the Lasombra Oblivion fail state, as it were, because the Lasombra player did want to attempt to use their Bane to interfere with technology, and I gave that, and everybody nearly shat themselves. This happened twice, and one of those times is the Lasombra player was like trying to see if they could use like the push button burner phone to get in contact with Brujah player, and I said, yeah, you can try it if you want. If you fail, it goes to the person you want it to. If you get any successes, it goes to Damien. It was like 4 successes, including the Bane difficulty, and Lasombra player was like, oh, I've only got 2 in composure. Like, this is going to be easy. Well, yeah, if you get a messy critical, that's 4 successes. So that raised a lot of tension as well. But that was later. Going back to collecting the Malkavians, the Lasombra at the airport, they had devised a plan, because they wanted... The Malkavian Brujah wanted to keep the Lasombra separate. It didn't last very long, nor did it work very well. Lasombra player was going to use a decoy car to like divert the attention of anybody that may get in the way, which turned out to be Genghis, because of course they chose not to deal with Genghis, so of course he was going to like clap them back. And there was quite a funny interaction between her and the touchstone, where the touchstone was able to get the rent car in place, and Lasombra player, out of character, said, oh, it's going to be like a fucking stupid colour, like hot Barbie pink. I said, sure, let's roll a dice for it. And of course they chose the incorrect result, so they now have a rental hot pink car that was used as a decoy, where the Lasombra player just snatched a random person from the airport, dominated them, and just had them just sit there so it looked like there was somebody in there, which I thought was an interesting choice. They didn't have to have anybody in there, but that didn't go very well for them, as we would soon discover. And of course, Malkavian and Brujah successfully collected the Lasombra, who are aware of the Lasombra player. Sierra is the only one that's going to like comment, oh, we were only expecting 2 individuals. Malinkoff just thought it was interesting there was a Lasombra already wanting to be part of the Camarilla. And those 2 have yet to have a conversation, so that's going to be interesting. Oh, and there was also a role that the Lasombra player did, see if she recognised any of them. And recognised Malinkoff, got a couple of successes, and said, oh yeah, you recognise Malinkoff, your sire would have told you that he's a Sabbat war hero. So that caused a bit of concern. And of course, when the Lasombra player would report back to them to their sire. The sire's like, why are you telling me this? Why are you not there? Just fuck off. Which is, I have to be honest, there was a bit of in-character stuff there, because I wasn't too sure what they wanted out of the sire at this point, other than just a bit of affection. So, as I said, it's one of those complicated relationships. You know, the sire's just going to be pushing at them, you know, to, like, succeed, be the one in charge. And Lasombra player, in and out of character, notice they push too hard, they're going to be more suspicious because of this situation. But, you know, it's a fun thing being a Lasombra wanting to join the Camarilla. But, them picking up the Lasombra at the airport concluded the end of the first session, or session 2 for us, I guess. I'm going to get these numbers for, like, wrong as we go further down the line. So, but whilst I can, it, you know, doesn't matter. So anyway, the third session would pick up immediately from them leaving the airport. Malkavian and Brujah left via a van that was just there, because of course there's a vehicle that's left for them, as per the plot, and Lasombra player in the Barbie wagon, as they were called. The Lasombra player now has the nickname of Barbie Lasombra, or Lasombra Barbie, or whatever it is. It's quite funny. One of the players is actually, like, just drumming up meme after meme, and I just love that. And they're also an incredible artist that does, like, these really fantastic illustrations so fucking quickly as well. I'm actually going to link their stuff in the description below. That their socials and whatnot, and if they've got any websites, I'll put that down as well. But anyway, yeah, Barbie Lasombra took away their hostage in the Barbie wagon and nearly crashed the car because I decided it was going to fuck with their emotions even more. Where in the airport, from the corner of their eye, they see one of their touchstones, like, either coming or going away in the airport, and that distracted them and they nearly crashed, and it was a bit of, like, all out the windows. As they nearly crashed at somebody, which did bring a bit of levity there, and Malkavian just thought of that and just, like, pointing fingers at them and whatnot. The coterie, I have to say, fucking hate Malkavian, because they find him really annoying. Malkavian and Malkavian are just fucking arguing all the time, which I absolutely love the dynamic. And I, again, going back to what I was saying about the sire thing, I love it that I'm able to portray these characters in a way that's convincing and the way that they're enjoying it. That makes me feel good as an ST, because these aren't my characters. Well, the sires are, but Malkavian and Sierra aren't, and they finding that all really interesting and, you know, and fun, and that makes me feel good, you know, that I'm doing all this well, because I haven't run an actual chronicle before, as I think I may have mentioned. So that's all, you know, I'm glad that I'm able to interpret it all of this well. A tip for anybody that's having a bit of problem with this: talk with your players and obviously find out their backstories and things, but don't run it as it's presented in the book. Be prepared to change things and add bits in and take things away. It just makes the whole thing a lot more personal. Anywho, so they were driving away, and I had the driver, who was the Brujah, roll a dice. My infamous odds and evens game. Basically, this was going to decide which one of them was going to get Genghis, because there was no real way of guaranteeing which one was going to get which, and it ended up being the Lasombra. So yeah, the roleplay between Brujah, Malkavian, and Malkavian, that was fun. Malkavian was just being a dick the whole way, like picking on them because of their clans and whatnot, which is what's suggested in the book. Of course, he and practically every other character that the Malkavian playing is playing is so anti-Malkavian. It's a bit of banter, and I'm making sure I'm not being, like, ableist or whatever. It's just case of class clans. Ugh, Malkavian. But, you know. So, we move to the Lasombra player, where they have an encounter with Genghis. And part of their plan was that they were going to meet up with Alex at some point and swap cars over or something. I'm not entirely too sure what their plan was, to be honest. But it was like to dump a car one place and drive off with another one. I think that was supposed to confuse them or something. But then I had the idea, okay, so why not have Genghis intercept that and be with the touchstone, Alex, who the Lasombra player aims to have as a ghoul at some point. And it was a very stressful situation for the Lasombra player, like this back and forth between Genghis and the Lasombra player. Lasombra player, I feel, would agree with me when I say that their plan to keep things under control didn't work very well. Because what ended up happening is that the hostage, for lack of a better phrase, had his head blown off with a shotgun. Because, like, Genghis was a bit riled up and being, like, pissed about and lied to and couldn't get a fucking straight answer out of the Lasombra player. And had his arm ripped off, because he too got a bestial failure following some obtenebration use, arms of Ahriman, like pulling and squeezing. Now, the Lasombra player didn't have that many successes with it either, so why did I just choose to have that? Honestly, it just made narrative sense that the abyss from which the Lasombras pull their influence from is something that they cannot control. And when I think in a situation like that, when he's all caught up or whatever, like having him frenzy like Noah did, I thought was a bit boring. And also, he's a fully fledged vampire and not a thin blood, so humanity's not so much intact. The thin blood compared to the kindred, that is. And also, she was pulling and twisting, so I think in that situation, it just lost control. And she gained disdain for that. Because, well, partly because it was fucking horrific, but because they broke one of their convictions, which was not the darkness at all. Don't overuse it or something like that. I can't remember the exact wording, but basically, I warranted that to be a stain. And some people may think that's harsh, but as I said, that's my interpretation of Oblivion. And once the dust had settled and everybody had fucked off because the goons of Genghis were like fucking terrified, Genghis like picking up the little that he could and run away with an arm down, disarmed literally. And the Lasombra player nearly frenzied because there was a lot of blood and they were on Hunger 4. So all of this was very stressful, and using Arms of Ahriman required a hunger check. A rouse check, rather. Once the dust has settled, this is where I start to misinterpret the direction of Alex. Like, that's the name of the character, as I think I mentioned already, who had strong feelings towards the Lasombra, and I played it up a little bit, and I played it up a bit too much, where the touchstone for the display was like very hot, and then when the Lasombra took them back home, I think it was the Lasombra player took the character back, the touchstone back home, and they broke into the Lasombra's haven or something like that. I just misinterpreted things, and it was meant to be a little bit ha-ha funny sort of thing, but the Lasombra player didn't like that too much because they thought I was now making them their stalker flaw, and also that was just sort of they didn't intend it to be like that, and which is fine, so I apologised and just reined it back in. And narratively speaking, we just described it as shock. So that's a thing. You know, as I said a moment ago, like, I ain't perfect. People get things wrong. And in a situation like that, all you need to do is just apologise, have a conversation about it, and just rein it back in. And it makes it sound really simple, but it really is. Because nobody wants to see anybody get hurt unless you're a fucking arsehole. You know, and I'm trying to make sure that everyone's having a fun time, and, you know, we're having a bit of a giggle about it, but I just took a step too far, so that's that case. And when Alex returns at a dramatically appropriate moment, we're going to pretend that this didn't happen. Maybe Alex will apologise for everything when she's a bit more level-headed, as it were, but yeah, I'll just rein it back in. So once that happened, Lasombra had acquired a shotgun that Genghis left behind. Told the sire about what happened. Sire didn't give a fuck. Told him to basically like grow a backbone, stand up for yourself, and went to the the observatory where they were previously denied, because the Malkavian player said no, didn't want more association with the Lasombra, and also it was also part of the original plan. On top of that, going back to the other two, a lot of what was happening was just role play between the coterie and Malenkov, who was just being an arsehole. I don't remember exactly things, but he was just like, you know, mocking them for being part of the Camarilla. Malkavian tried doing it back. There was some very interesting feeding scenes where Malkavian went off and did their thing. Brujah, basically, to dumb it down really stupidly, through his feeding practices of wearing somebody down, mansplained a jogger to the point of exhaustion, fed on them, collected some of their blood in a bottle to tease Malenkov with, who kept going on about how hungry he was, because there are bits later in the book where he's like close to, losing it, shall we say. And I just interpreted somebody who hadn't fed well, all the skittiness, like looking around a lot, that he hasn't fed for a while, and also just generally nervous about what the fuck he's doing in this very loud, bright place. And he went out at one point, just killed somebody and left them. So when we next play again, I'm going to have the players deal with that and try and work out who's going to do what to deal with the slaughtered guard. that's walking around. And eventually, Brujah and Lasombra had a chat outside the observatory, and the Lasombra player was allowed into the observatory for the night. And that kind of wraps up those 2 sessions really briefly. But of course, I do have thoughts about what's going to happen next. And if you do not want to see that, or you're one of my players watching this, please go away now. This is your spoiler. We've even got a nice spoiler graphic here. I don't want my players to be ruined by this, and if anybody who's watching this who don't want to have any spoilers about what I think will happen and what I intend for the next session, go away now. Check out the links in the description below, various books and whatnot that I use, as all the other social media stuff, and I will see you next time. As for everybody else, I'm now going just to waffle on a little bit about what I intend to do, as part of the sacrifice plot, and also injecting some of the characters' backstories in there. Now, as part of the plot, you would know, if anybody who's played this, is that behind the scenes, Jason Newbury, or Sun, the Malkavian Primogen, is fucking terrified of the Lasombra. And he has put together a makeshift coterie and some ghouls to intercept all of this that's happening. And depending on the haven, or wherever the characters store them, it's going to have a different protection level, and whatever happens, depending on the protection level, various different things are going to happen, where it's going to range from Sierra is beating the fucking shit out of him, Malenkov escapes, to everything's all hunky-dory, but they're going to find them all later on the road. Now, I asked the Malkavian player about what the security they had in place. They didn't have any retainers, so already we had lost Protection Plus, which is the highest one. They had security cameras, and it was a hidden entrance, so this to me warranted protection. Also, it was a bit way away, so I had it as done as protection, which means is the ghouls during the day would come in, break in, and set the haven on fire. Now, I am not going to do this. Why? This is the 4th session, and I think putting the players through that on the very 4th session is a little mean. And on top of that, from how it was described, it was basically a small apartment-sized underground bunker thing with basically that was one way in and out, like down some stairs and a path. So basically, they're all going to die within this large chamber. And as I said, I think that's incredibly unfair. Then I realised I didn't have to do this because I just established to you, and also earlier in the session, that there was a security guard walking around. There'd probably be people out there during the day, it's near the coast, there'll be quite a lot of people about. So it would actually be very difficult for these ghouls to do that, so that becomes Protection Plus. Also, because I'm a ST that listens to my players, the players were talking about being scared about what the Malkavian sire would do to the players once she would meet the Lasombra and the gang, so to speak. And that gave me some wicked ideas, where the Malkavian sire is going to intervene, or have people of hers scout the place out, and they would find the ghouls, and who would probably lead to one way or another of learning about the existence of them being tracked. And this Malkavian sire is going to be there on that night, and I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation between Malkavian player and sire, and for them to learn that the child has deceived them, and also the players to actually learn what the sire is like, and also for Malenkov a chance to rib into the Malkavian a bit more, because I left it with the Malkavian having the slight upper hand on the arguments, and I just want to even up the playing field a little bit, which will be fun. A lot of my plans from the previous recap are still in place. I still want the Lasombra to meet up with Crook to do that stuff with Anita Wainwright, because the next time we do this is going to be the Succubus Club. And I want the players to have a chance to socialise a bit more. There's a fuck ton of characters in that portion for them to meet. I want them to explore and meet and greet and just experience it a bit more. Also, at the same time, Brujah player hasn't had really a lot of these kindred interactions. They tried talking to Sierra, but Sierra, as written here, is very shut off and not having many conversations because she is there on a mission to speak with Kevin Jackson about all of this, and that's what she's going to do. She's not really going to part information with the Brujah about this. And I want Brujah to have some of that interaction as well. And also, like the other two players, Brujah player wants to be fucked around a bit more by an older vampire. And because of their backstory, their sire isn't around at the moment. And in my head, this is too early for the Lasombra sire to be that I mentioned previously in the previous recap to come into play. So, I then sat there thinking, well, in the Succubus Club, who could I introduce that would produce very interesting results to this character? Well, the news reporter thing, I thought, the Hurricane Weatherbottom, I forget his first name, the Ventru Hacker. But I want to bring him later, like after the sacrifice, along with one of the touchstones of the character who's like a contact, somewhere in the city. There are other hackers in in Chicago. I want them to meet Camarilla, who I think is a very interesting character. I want them to meet the Hound. There's also the Malkavian general information broker as well. And I'm sure Brujah is probably, when learns of them, is going to gear towards them as well. But, those are other incidental things. But the character that I have in mind is Portia. And for anybody who knows Chicago lore, or Vampire the Masquerade lore, you know exactly who Portia is. And how getting involved with them is one of the most dangerous things that any vampire can do, especially in Chicago. So, that'll be fun. And the way that Portia's presented here as well, I think will be very interesting for that character. Because I was thinking of having Portia look... I'm looking for an old friend of mine whose name's Malen. The arch nemesis of Portia / Helen. So, that'll be fun. And I think that'll tie in very nicely with the character's backstory as well. Like, investigate to try and find out the truthful things. I do also have to be careful how to play this one, because one of our red veils for our session 0 is that the players should not betray each other. I thought it was very much in Portia's nature to have them pit off against each other. So, as I said, I have to play that one very carefully because I do not want to upset people. That one was actually put in place by the Brujah player, so I do have to be careful how to handle that one. So, but that is kind of what I would like to do, because I think it would be a very interesting thing to do. Meeting with the information brokers, and also, depending how far we get in the Succubus Club, there's also going to be that conversation with Kevin Jackson and the Lasombra player, because again, the Lasombra player is not supposed to be involved with this, and there's going to be a big old conversation where Kevin Jackson's going to basically throw down the law, as it were. Right, you're going to tell me the whole truth and nothing but the truth. If I think you're lying, I'm going to kill you. If you lie to me, I'm going to kill you. If I find that you've lied to me later on, I'm going to kill you. And basically, I think this, if I handle this right and well enough, this is going to be the wake-up call that the Lasombra player needs to realise that they need to, abandon their humanity a little bit. Not to the point so it drops, but, break free from their sire's grasp. And, if they really want to make a name for themselves, they have to detach themselves from their sire. And given the way that it's presented here, where any Lasombra that wants to join us to kill off a sire, not a sire, an elder, it may turn around being that the Lasombra player has to kill their sire, and the player themselves know that's a thing with Chicago. So, that may happen. But then again, it might not happen. I have to see how the character react in the roleplay to decide. I may also give the Lasombra player a very minor title. Because at the moment, the city does not have a Keeper of Elysium, beg your pardon. Annabelle has that de facto title. Sort of. She calls herself that, but she isn't really, because there isn't one. Everybody's just about it. But I think Kevin Jackson will do that just to keep this Lasombra and arm's reach sort of thing. So a little bit like Shadows of New York, but different enough, I feel, to not make it feel familiar, because at the same time it's going to piss off Annabelle. So there's another rivalry involved there, which is all very interesting. And that's just the stuff that I have planned. There may be more exciting things that happen depending on what the players do. They may, if they interrogate the vampire that the Malkavian sire brings to them, or goes to investigate later on. I haven't quite worked out the finer details of that yet. They may be able to work out that actually it was Jason Newbury that was involved with all of this, and then can have him axed off. But we'll have to see how we do that. But I want that reaction with the Malkavian sire, so I'm bending the story a little bit to accommodate that, a little bit, and also they clearly want those interactions and feel the fear of this very clingy Malkavian sire. So, you know, I'm going to give the players what they want. Now, as a storyteller, you shouldn't do this all the time, but I think it would be very, very interesting to see what happens next when we do that. So, quite a bit of drama that happens. Oh, and there's also the fact of how they're going to deal with Maninkoff should he escape, as that's part of the plot, that he escapes and causes havoc in the Red Number 5 and then their brothel. Will the players decide, actually, you cannot leave Malinkoff on his own, he cannot be trusted? I don't know, because if they do that and they make a good case for it, I will allow that, and then that will just nullify a good chunk of the sacrifice, because we're kind of reaching towards the end of it now. I reckon within a couple of sessions it will be wrapped up, maybe 3. But yeah, that's kind of a brief version of our, the last, 6 hours of gameplay, condensed in just over half an hour. I hope this has been interesting. Is there anything else that you want me to waffle about in these future sessions? And if so, let me in the comments below. And I would actually love to hear about some of your Vampire the Masquerade escapades in the comments below. Check out the links and stuff below. And I will see you for the next recap session. And until next time, farewell.